Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the wheel. So for this particular part, we're going to go ahead and make sure that our assembly is activated up here, miniature train, and we're going to start a new component. We're going to name this one wheel. Now for this one, I know we could create an axis and a work plane right here in the axle where the wheel's supposed to go. But for this, I'd like to actually design it out here in space, because there's a lot of stuff we have to do, and I don't want to do it on the body because it's a little bit easier to see off here in space. So we're going to do this out here. So I'm going to have you guys create a sketch and then just pick any work plane out here in the middle of nowhere.
Don't pick that one.
But you can pick this one. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Okay, so looking at our drawing, I'm kind of showing you with my mouse this little region. The wheel's been cut away. A quarter of it has been cut away to show you this little portion. We're going to draw just this right here, and then we're going to revolve it around the center of the wheel. Okay? So I'm going to start with just a rectangle, and I'm going to draw it right over here, and then I'm going to draw a line right above the rectangle. Now the reason why I drew that line, I'm going to press escape, is because this line that I just drew and I'm highlighting represents the center of the wheel that I'm showing you with my mouse. Alright, now if you look, the center hole that goes through the wheel, and I'm going to scroll up, you can see that this dimension is pointing to the center of that hole, and it's telling you that the diameter of the hole in the middle of the wheel is 0.28 inches. Well, if it's 0.28 inches in diameter, then when I revolve the wheel around this center axis, that's going to create a hole. I'll show you. Once I revolve this, and don't do this by the way, I'm just going to demonstrate. When I revolve this around that axis, you can see that it's going to create a hole, right? So if that's the case, let me go back to my sketch, then what you're going to want to do right now is you're going to want to dimension the distance between that center line and this edge of the rectangle to be half of 0.28. So 0.28 divided by 2. Okay? So that once we revolve this, when we're done, the hole will be in the middle twice the 0.14. Alright? Alright, moving on. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see my print a little bit better. Alright, so I'm going to complete this little shape that you see here so that it ends up looking like this shape right here. So the overall width in this direction, if I look at my drawing, is 0.25. So from here to here, 0.25. Okay, no problem, looks good. The overall length from this point, hopefully you're looking at my mouse, to this point, I think I can actually make this a little bit bigger. I know you guys are looking at your iPad, so I want to make sure I can give you guys as much room to see as possible. So the overall length, you know what I need to do? I need to create a circle on the end here, because you can see in the print that this has a little circular end. So I'm going to click on circle, and then I'm going to click on the midpoint. Notice how before I click the circle, I'm going to make sure that this little triangle appears, which ensures that I'm clicking on the midpoint, and then I'm going to click on the end point. So now I have a circle. Alright, there we go. Now, if I look at my drawing again, there's a dimension, it says 0.75. Now be very careful on what I'm looking at, where these dimensions are pointing to and from. This 0.75 is from the center of the wheel to the, actually it's 1 inch, my bad. Center of the wheel to the center of that center point. So, from the center of the wheel to the center of that circle. Should be 1. Alright, so I'll just give you a second to look at my dimensions and match them. Press pause if you need to. Alright, moving on now. Is there anything else before I start trimming this? I don't think so. Alright, now you'll notice that if I look at my drawing, I've got a little like groove that comes in. So I'm going to use my line tool, and then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to kind of draw a little groove, a squared groove, just like that. I just drew a line in, down, and then back in again. That's all I did. And then I'm going to use this little scissors, it's called trim, to trim right there. So you can see that I just cut and trimmed this little inside portion. Now, if I look back again at my drawing, I have a distance of 0.25 from the center of the wheel to this inside edge. I know that these are rounded, but I'm going to round them afterwards. So don't worry that there's a little fillet or a round on these inside portions. All right, so I'm going to click on dimension from the center to this inside edge, and I'm going to type in 0.25. Press enter. Now, that 0.75 that I accidentally read the first time looks like it's pointing to this inside edge right there. All right, so again, center line to this inside edge is 0.75. All right, so again, take a look at my dimensions, make sure they match. And then lastly, I'm looking at this 1/8 inch, which is how far this line right there is to this edge, 0.125. So it looks like I have all of my dimensions for this shape. The only thing I don't have are the little rounded fillets, which will add once I revolve this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my sketch. And I'm going to click on revolve. I'm going to pick both of these, or all three, I guess, of these regions. And then I'm going to pick my axis, which is this, and I'm going to click OK. Now, if I left click and hold my cube, you'll see that I have my wheel, which is started, not complete, but it's started. I'm going to make this drawing a little bit smaller so you can sort of see what's happening here. Now we have these little rounded portions which I'll be able to add right now. I'm going to click on fillet, and if I read my print, it says R 0.0625. So I'm going to click on this little plus sign, and I'm going to click on, very carefully click on this inside edge, this inside edge, this inside edge, and this inside edge. So there's 4 of them. You can see they're highlighted blue. And then you have to click over here where it says the radius value, highlight it, and type in 0.0625. And you can see that it gives you a preview, and then you're going to have to click OK. And now they're all rounded. Look at that. Kind of starting to look like a wheel. All right, there are 2 remaining big steps that we have to take. One will be to put in these little spokes, which are like the holes in the rim, which are all the way around. And then last will be this little peg that comes out, which is really important because that's what is used to drive the wheel. So let's start with the spokes, the pattern on the inside. Make a sketch on this flat face inside here, just like that. I'm going to scroll down on my drawing because I don't have any details of the dimensions for that on this drawing, but I do have some down here. Okay, so for this operation, you can see that I've got some angles and some rounded top and bottom portions. That's going to help me figure out how to draw this. So what I'd like you to do is use the line command, and if you hover over the middle of the circle, you'll see a little snap, a circle snap. I'd like you to click there, and then draw perfectly straight up so that it says 90 degrees. And I would recommend snapping to something on one of these first rings. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to pick that one. Just so you have a perfectly vertical line. And then what I'd like you to do is I would like you to draw another line that snaps to the center of the circle, and then somewhere to the right, again snapping to this inner circle, but don't worry about the degrees, just somewhere to the right in this location would be fine. And then press escape. Now these two lines, this one's black because it's constrained to be perfectly up. This one is not constrained yet. What we're going to do is we're going to click on dimension, and you're going to click on the vertical line first, and then this line second, and then in between you're going to click the third time. Whenever you click on two lines that are not parallel, it's going to give you a degrees option. Now if you look at your print, notice how there's a 30-degree difference in rotation between these two lines, so you're going to type in 30. Okay? So that creates the spacing, the angular spacing between one spoke. Now we want to create the arc on the bottom and the top of the spoke. So to do that, you're going to create a circle. You're going to set the center point of the circle at the center of the wheel, and then you're going to drag up, and you're just going to draw the circle anywhere, but don't snap on anything. Just kind of drop it somewhere where it looks correct, and then draw another circle whose center point is snapped at the center of the wheel, and drag up so that it looks almost correct. And then we're going to dimension this. So click dimension. Now if I look at my print, you'll notice that it shows a radius for the small arc, and then it shows a radius for the large arc. So we're going to dimension the small circle first, and we're going to place that dimension. Now since we're drawing a circle, we have to specify the diameter. Now if I look at the print, it's giving me a radius of 0.375. But since I'm drawing a circle, I better double it. So put times, which is the asterisk, 2. And then there it is. So same thing with the big circle. Dimension it, place it. According to my drawing, it's 0.625 radius, but since I'm drawing a circle, times 2, which gives me 1.25. So now you can see that the top arc and the bottom arc are there. Now I'm going to use my scissors, which is trim, and I'm going to trim the outside of both of these two arcs. And now look, I've got one spoke. Finish your sketch, go to extrude, pick just this little inside, not that, but this inside little piece. I like to left click, hold, and angle it a little bit so you can see the arrow, and then left click, hold the arrow, and drag it through so it cuts. It should be red. That means it's cutting. And make sure that says cut. Hit OK. Give it a second to think, and now you have one spoke. Now you're going to sit there and say, that stinks, I have to do this for every single one. No, you don't. I have a trick. If you go to the Create menu, you can do a pattern, and you can go to Circle Pattern. Let me show you that again. Create, Pattern, Circle Pattern. And if you do that, what you can do is you can go to the Type and change the type to Features. This is a feature, folks. Change it to Features and pick the feature that you created. You gotta like hover over it so that just that lights up. Click it, and then where it says Axis, select it, and pick that circle, Now you're going to see a preview of 3 of them, and that's because you're only asking for 3. Let's count how many we have in our drawing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to change the quantity to 6, and then we're going to hit OK. And sure enough, I now have 6 of these wonderful things sitting here on my wheel. And if you twist it around, it should start to really look like the wheel in the drawing. Okay? So now we're on our last and final step, which is going to be to add this hub, which is going to connect the linkage so that we can drive the train. Alright? It's going to be our last, final step. Alright? So be ready for it here. So the hub we're going to place on this face, the flat face on the back of this wheel. So I'm going to suggest creating a sketch, touching this flat face of the wheel right here. Okay. What you're going to do is you are going to look at the print, and you're going to notice that it is the center of this hub is 0.7 away from the center of the wheel. That has to be exact, or else when you go to assemble everything, it's not going to fit. All right? So that's really, really, really important. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to create a circle. Hover, when you create the circle, hover over the center and drag perfectly to the left and draw a circle. This has to be perfectly horizontal. All right? And what you're going to do is you're going to make a dimension from the center of your hub, I'm sorry, the center of your wheel to the center of your hub, and that should be exactly 0.7. Now look at what just came up on mine. It says adding this dimension will over-constrain the sketch. If that comes up, don't ever hit OK. All right? I made a mistake. My mistake, I'm going to show you, I accidentally locked the center of my circle to the midpoint of this geometry. So that was a mistake. You can see the little triangle here. So what I need to do is I need to delete that circle. So I need to redraw my circle, making sure it's on the horizontal, axis of the center line of the wheel. But I need to make sure that when I put this circle and place it, that I don't lock it to anything. Now, when I go midpoint to there, and I add my 0.7, notice how that over-constrain window didn't come up, because now it's not locked to that midpoint. So be very careful about that. Okay, so now I'm exactly 0.7 from the center of the wheel to the center of this hub. Now if I look at my drawing, the diameter of that hub is 0.25. Just like that. Now I want that hub to come out of the wheel, off the face of that wheel. Looks like it's extruded up by 0.375. So right away, finish the sketch. Zoom out so you guys can see what I'm doing a little bit. I know that the spoke doesn't line up exactly like the drawing, but I'm not worried about that. Just take that, and I'm going to bring it up just by dragging it forward, 0.375. Just like that. Say OK. So another mistake I just made, notice how I didn't pick all of that region. So I'm going to go back to my extrusion by double clicking on it and making sure that I pick all of the circle. I only picked half of it. So remember, you can always go back to the history. My history is down here of everything I did to this wheel. If I want to fix anything, I can go back even to my original sketch. Check it out. Just by double clicking down here. I'll always go back and fix mistakes. Too bad life wasn't like that, right guys? Alright. Now on the top of this little mountain I just made, now I need to make this other little hub. So I'm going to make a sketch on the top, make another circle on top of a circle, make sure it's concentric, it's sharing the same center point, dimension it, If I look at my drawing, that little circle is 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. Oops, 0.125. Finish my sketch again, extrude that up. Looks like that goes up 0.125 according to my drawing. And then lastly, you'll see there's a little hole. And I'm reading the hole, it's 0.0625 diameter, 0.25 deep. So, yep, you guessed it. Make a sketch on the top and put a point right in the middle. So create a point right in the middle. Finish your sketch. Create a hole. Not thread, what did I just do? I was clicking too fast. Create a hole. Pick the hole right there. Wow, that's way too big of a hole. I don't want that one. Let me zoom around here so you guys can see. The hole I want to make should be, that's my depth. This first box is my depth, 0.25. My diameter looks like is 0.0625. And my drill point should be flat, and that's it. Look at that. I've got a little tiny hole right there on the hub. Life is good. I'm going to hit save. Hopefully you will too. Now we have the hole. And again, life looks good from this perspective. I think I'm going to put this wheel onto the axle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to activate our assembly right here. Everything goes back to solid. Notice how my wheel is just kind of free floating. But now I want to put it on the train. All right, I would like to turn off my, oops, not that one. Yeah, okay, now you guys have more room to see. So I'm going to put this wheel on the train so that it can spin. So in order to do that, what I would like to do is use joint. So I'm going to go to assemble, joint. Remember, always capture position. So go to motion, turn it to revolute. Remember, rotates component around a joint origin. After you pick revolute, go back to position. You're probably going to want to spin it so that you can see the back of the wheel. Make sure that the back, when you hover over the wheel, that the back ring of the hub, or I'm sorry, of the wheel lights up, as well as this little X lights up. Just kind of like that. Click it. Then left click on this little cube, rotate, pick one of the holes, just like that, so the cylinder lights up, and then the back, like that, origin, click. It'll give you a preview. If you're happy with it, the placement and everything, say okay. If not, do it again. And now you should be able to grab the wheel and rotate it. All right, click save. That's how you put the wheel on. Now you're probably wondering, do I have to make 3 more wheels? That would really stink. You don't. You can right click on the wheel, copy it, right click, paste, capture position. You'll notice it pasted right over it. Just left click on these arrows and then just drag it away. And now we've got another wheel just kind of hanging out here. You can right click and I believe paste again, or paste new. And now I've got a 3rd wheel, right click, paste new, and now I've got a 4th wheel. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to assemble these other ones. Joint, capture, rotate that to that. You can see this goes pretty quick. Assemble, joint, that to that. Look, if it's backwards, you can click on flip, and it flips it. Assemble, joint, this to this, I don't like the orientation, flip. Look at that, guys. Oops, I got 4 wheels on my train. Pretty sweet. Click save. Subscribe, like, make me viral, and everything is going to be wonderful. Thanks, guys. See you in the next video.